Hello everybody, welcome back to another slightly different video. Today I'm trying something new. These are all clips from my streams, which I think you will enjoy, so let's get right into it. Here you can see a list of topics, so you can skip to whatever topic that you want to watch. And we're going to start off with the topic, is sound design needed for Psytrance?
I'm extremely bad at synthesis and it's really boring for me personally. You're gonna have a hard time making Psytrance. At least making original Psytrance, if that's what you're after. Because you're going to have to rely on presets and stuff like that. I think Psytrance, when it comes to like making actual good proper music, you need to learn sound design because we don't have any music theory and we don't do any chords and progression and stuff like that. The only characteristic that you can have is your sound design. But speaking about technicalities and what people are better at and what people are less good at, I do think, if you want my opinion on the whole sound design debate, it would be better for people to actually know sound design if they're making Psytrance.
Bit depth versus bit rate.
There's a charm in lo-fi sometimes. Early samplers were 12-bit.
Okay. Personally, I don't see it like that. It's not that kind of bit rate anyway. It's kilobits per second that we're after. So it is over time. It's not the bit depth, it's the bit rate, which is different. I can explain that, by the way, if you guys need to. Let me just quickly whip up a little canvas here that I have. The bit depth that you're talking about with samplers is how much information exists in one instant of time. So in your case, 12 bits, right? The bit rate is how many bits are used per second to do the whole audio wave. So this is your audio wave. This time is 1 second. And this is your bit rate as well. So this will be maybe like 10K. That's a high bit rate. So it will use like 10 kilobytes, 10,000 kilobytes, so 10 megabytes. It will use 10 megabytes per second of delivering however many bit depths that you have. Lower bit depth can actually help sound louder. That's true. Lower bit depth, there's like rounding errors and stuff like that, because it makes some samples louder as it interpolates to a lower bit depth. But bit depth and bit rate are two different things, and there's a little bit of like correlation to them. But usually when it comes to streaming stuff, you don't touch the bit depth. The bit depth becomes adaptive to the signal, right? So it will use more bits the louder you get to get more definition or the more clarity that you need. So what that means is that, for example, as the riser that I just played, this one for you to sample, as it was very quiet, you'll have less details in there than when it's very loud. Now, technically, that I guess it doesn't really matter. What matters more is just the overall bit rate.
How to make the wavetable for my bassline patches?
How did you make this bass table? This bassline table, it was a very long process of separating harmonics from an ordinary saw wave. Essentially what it is, it's a saw wave where I'm doing this. I can go over the basic, but there was a whole cleaning process and fixing process in there. I resampled this process here. So this process over here, which is the M freeform phase preset that I always used to use on my basslines. So I resampled this process from 0 to 10,000%. In order to do that, I had to like separate the saw wave into a few harmonics that were processed less or not processed at all. And then we have just the depth going up over time, right? So if this is your wavetable, if you're creating the wavetable over, I don't know, 4 bars, I go like C1 like this, and I turn up the depth over this time over here. Right, so this is the basis of the wavetable. It's just the depth going up. It's just kind of like that, the kind of the disperser thing that you get. It's just that in order for this to actually work as a wavetable, I had to separate it in, I think I did like removing the lowest 3 or 4 harmonics. So I did something like this, and then I replaced those with individual sine waves that then either went through a different version of this M freeform phase with lower depths over the time, like one would go to maybe halfway, and then another one would go to a quarter or something like that. And then I believe the lowest 2 of them didn't go through freeform phase at all whatsoever.
Faceplant explained.
Can you tell me more about Faceplant plugin? Sure. Faceplant is, when you open it up as a plugin, it is its own, like, make your own synth kind of thing. So if you get into modular, which, by the way, you shouldn't, but if you do, this will be very familiar to you in that you can say, oh, I need a saw wave. You get yourself a saw wave. I need a sine wave. You get yourself a sine wave. And you can just build it however you want. There's no like infrastructure already set up for you like there is, for example, in Serum. In Serum, you have two oscillators, and a sub-oscillator and a noise oscillator. And that goes all together in this filter. You cannot change that. You cannot say, oh, I want this oscillator here, or I want this filter to be in between the oscillators, or I want 2 filters, or I want 3 oscillators of the wavetable variety. In Faceplant, you can do all of that. You can just design the synth however you want. You can set up FM. It is also nice and visual. As you can see, the waveform actually updates in here if you're applying FM. If you have a filter, there will be a waveform readout for you where you can see what the filter is doing to the waveform. It's a hybrid like Contact. No, Contact is completely a sampler. What this is you can make a sampler out of it. You could even do multi-sampling if you really hate yourself, because you could load up multiple samples in here and kind of build your own like multi-sampler by basically, you know, with the modulations in here, turning on and off different modulations, I guess. But the main idea behind it is that you just get to have this template that you can work with, that you can just put in whatever you want, right? So you have all of the different modulators in here, you have all of the different effects in here, and then you have all of the different generators in here, including, yes, a sampler. It is capable of playing samples, but this is just to be kind of like the simpler inside of Ableton.
How long have I been living in Italy?
I had this in mind for quite a while. Where are you from? I'm originally Dutch, but I've been living in Italy for over a decade now. It's been a decade and half a year.
Do I care where producers are from?
Do you like some Dutch/Italian producers? I mean, I don't really care about the nationality of producers. It's not something that I even like watch. I know that there is a lot of producers from the Netherlands that go everywhere and that go, you know, they go very big. The Netherlands is definitely a country that, in terms of, if you look at like producers or DJs per capita, is up there with a lot of very big DJs, especially outside of the Psytrance scene. But it's not something that I like really care about in a producer. It's not like, oh, they're from my country, so therefore I like them, or they are not from my country, so therefore I don't like them. It's like, I don't care about that stuff.
How do I use dBlue glitch?
What exactly do you use the glitch plugin for in Psytrance? And with what types of sounds? I got that plugin as well, but the output sound is pure trash.
I mean, what I do is I just use the random stuff in there most of the time, and then just browse seeds like I'm browsing presets. That's the cool thing about it. That's like, let's say that I want to set up some glitch on this part. Right? I just go in here, dBlue glitch, and maybe I know that I want a random glitch effect every 8 notes, for example. I select bank number 2. There's many preset banks that you can choose from, which essentially just, you know, this is a beat, right? So this is a quarter note, so this is 8 notes, this is 16 notes, and now you kind of know the feeling of the plugin here. This is 4 bars, as you can see, and then there's the bar line up top, right? So then what I do is I just go like this. I just position the mouse where I need it to be, which is right there. Maybe even loop it. And then I can just go. Something like that. Now there's randomness in the patch as well. What I can also do is click effects here so that I get some random effects. I don't color in things manually unless I have a very specific idea of what the glitch needs to do. And usually I don't. I like this one. Yeah, a glitch plugin, you don't put that... I wouldn't put that on the bassline. At least not as your kind of like standard process. This is really... The goal is to mess up a sound in a way that sounds cool, essentially.
What is resampling?
Resampling is really your friend because it just solidifies the ideas that the glitch machine or whatever kind of generative synth that you're using, generative patch that you're using. It just consolidates the idea for you. Why and or when use resampling? Resampling, when you're using it, is when you want to solidify an idea. So what we've done here is we have generated some patch, or we've created a patch that just generates some random stuff, right? With the note on random here and the little Chris glitch thing, which uses some randomness, or is based on randomness actually, because the deterministic one is off. Which means that anytime we want to have the same idea over and over again, like we want to commit to a certain sound like we're doing now, you have to resample it. Do you need it for each sound? You don't need it for each sound. Just any sound that you want to fully commit and want to say, okay, this is exactly how I want the sound to be. I need to make sure that every time that it plays, it is not random. It is exactly what I want it to be, right? And that's, for example, with the bassline. It is very important that you clean up your bassline and therefore you resample your bassline. But it can also be the case that, in this case, for this glitch stuff, I want this glitch sound to play always like this. Right? I don't want it to sound any other way, so that's why I resample.
Now I see why you made several recordings, to hear how they differ and choose the one you like.
Yes, you record several things. I've done that all over the place in here. There's like glitch loops in here as well, and recordings in here. I think some of these maybe. At least there used to be. I may have deleted some of the... Oh no, here. This is where I recorded the whole long thing, and I just chopped it up into this little bit, and this is the bit that I need, and all of the rest of it is discarded, right?
All I hear in videos about resampling is they say a lot about phasing and that sounds can overlap or something. I didn't quite get what they mean with that, but with randomness it makes sense.
Oh, the resampling that you're talking about in this case is connected to the bassline. Resampling the bassline is a necessity when you're doing your standard multiband processing on your bassline. You know, where you go into plugins like Vitamin or Quadra Fuzz or whatever it is. I do have Vitamin, by the way. So plugins like these, where you use this to process the bassline and you set the filters by ear to process the bassline. This is what you would need to resample, a process like this. And the reason for that is because of post-ringing. Essentially what the filter does is two things. It, one, delays certain frequencies, so it makes them play later, and it also extends certain frequencies. So what that means is that when you think the bass note plays up until here, because this is where the note stops, it actually continues in here, right? Because the filtering is extending and lengthening those frequencies. So your transient of the kick is going to be destroyed because some of the bass is still playing. Even though you say in the MIDI note, like, don't play here. I want you to pause here. I want you to stop because my kick is playing. I, on the other hand, have done a lot of technical things in here where essentially the processing is captured inside of the waveform already. And therefore I don't do any multiband processing and any filtering. And therefore I almost have no post-ringing. So therefore I cannot really show it. If I go to the bass, you can see this is completely silent. And then we have our kick and our bass here, and it's all kind of completely silent and doesn't require any resampling. But if you're just normally processing your bassline, I can show you what it looks like, by the way. Give me 2 seconds. If I go in this bassline and I just add a high pass filter, like a very steep high pass filter right here, do you see how that changes the bassline? And how, especially here, once the filter is engaged, that there's some stuff happening here now. Now it's silent, right? Completely silent. I turn on the filter. Oh, I need to play this as well. If I turn off the filter, it's completely silent. If I turn on the filter, you get your stuff in here. And the more that I change the filter, you can see it's messing up the transients in all kinds of way. This is the kind of post-ringing that you would need to resample for. That's what you remove when you're resampling your bassline. That's a different kind of it is also resampling in that you're sampling something that you made. So you're returning it into a sample, I guess. But it's a different reason why you would do it than what we were doing with the glitch stuff. The glitch stuff is purely for consistency, and resampling your bassline is purely for cleanliness, cleaning up the mess that you create when you're processing your bassline. I do have a video on this, by the way, something like the reason why you need to clean your bass, that goes into much greater detail. The video that goes into the most detail is probably my ultimate guide to Psytrance basslines, the 3-hour long one. But I understand that not everybody might have the time to watch that fully. So there is also a video specifically on the reason why you would want to clean your kick and bass, and then how to do that. It's like the final step of the bass production, because after that you cannot go back into it even.
People still use freeze effects. I read it was a thing in the 90s because the PCs were really weak for real-time audio.
Yeah, as I said, nowadays you don't really need to resample for just saving CPU cycles. There is still the option, you know, the freeze track option, because Ableton doesn't like bounce in place for some reason. The main thing that I would use that kind of thing for is just like committing to the sound design. So let's give an example, this thing here. I like this sound, I would maybe want to edit it a little bit more in a waveform. That's when you would use the freeze, or as you call it, freeze effects. Every DAW has its own terminology for it. There's also like a bypass effect for all of the effects that you might, or all of the plugins or effects that you might have on a track. For example, in Reaper, that's the case. There's just this one effects flick, and that will just turn off every plugin but the synth, I guess. I don't know if that's what you mean, or this kind of resampling here.
Should you take CPU load into account while producing?
From a coding perspective, resampling can offload a lot of processing, since the sample isn't processed as intensely as the whole chain making the sound from scratch every time.
It's true what you're saying, David, but let's be real, nowadays CPU loads aren't as big of an issue as they were 10 years ago. A lot of the advice that you hear about preserving CPU load and preserving cycles when producing music, like on a modern system, just doesn't matter anymore. Unless you're doing stuff with plugins like Omnisphere, which are huge, or you're making incredibly crazy patches inside a Faceplant, or you're using a lot of tracks that use multi-samplers, like Contact, right? In that case, yeah, you're going to have CPU issues, or if you're just working on an older or lower tier system. But if right now you spend $1,000 building a PC for production, I don't think you ever have to really worry about, oh, I need to resample something so that I can, you know, have the CPU cycles that I need. I haven't run into CPU issues since I built the new PC. And that's saying something, because even the old PC, which was like 10 years old, not 10 years, 8 years old when I upgraded it, it only had issues with one project, which had over 300 tracks in it. So that's, you know, that at that point, it's really high performance, or really a lot of stuff is happening. So in that, it's the exception, not the rule.
Ableton's design issues.
What's the most common bugs you see in Ableton? I mean, not bugs per se, just baffling design decisions. You know what I mean? Like, Ableton was designed for live performance, and that's still a fairly big thing, or a fairly big part of the Ableton brand. But it feels like they're still designing the software as if it's exclusively still used for live performance, when that's clearly not the case. If you want me to go a little bit more in depth on what that means, by the way, in regards to the design of Ableton, like their plugin delay compensation and stuff like that.
Oh, I definitely get what you mean, but this is a common problem with most software. People rarely go and re-ask users what they want to see or what has to be changed.
I mean, they don't have... I get it, Cosmo, what you're saying, but they don't have to check. Like, it's common knowledge that Ableton is predominantly used in non-live performances. Most Ableton users probably don't play live with it, they're just using it as their DAW. And that's because it's a very capable DAW, right? Throughout the way that it has grown with especially the arrangement mode, it has become more and more just capable of being used in the studio. And essentially, when I got into Ableton, it was just seen as a DAW already. And that was like 8 years ago now. What they need to see is that there's now competition like Bitwig, which people love talking about. Bitwig users are like the Elon Musk stans of the music production world. They just love talking about how superior that DAW is and how it's going to fix every problem ever imagined in the music production scene. But that aside, they do have a point in that just if you're starting out, then it's a much better DAW to start out with because it's much more complete and it's just a lot more stable. Plugin sandboxing, plugin delay compensation just works as you expect it to. I think that there's just other optimizations as well. One of the things that I've noticed is one of the like big things that Ableton does is I think it has to do with the way that they're storing different things. But if I take this massive group that I have here, which is my entire song, and I put SizeScope below it, it will take a while for that to load. Even in this project, which is relatively small for me, it takes a while for it to just go down, right? If I have a project that is like, I don't know, like 200 tracks, and I have a couple of hundred or like 10 Omnispheres loaded, it just takes a minute or two, more than a minute sometimes, to just move a track around. And I think that has to do with the project file structure. Because I did look at that at some point. It's an XML thing, right? It's an XML file and there's loads of indentations and before you get to the tracks, I guess. And then all of the track has to have all of the information, all of the samples that are placed in there. So for each sample, it stores the time frame, it stores all of the attributes of the individual sample, all of this stuff. It stores God knows how many other properties about the effects and all of that stuff. And having to move that in memory, what you essentially have to do is move one part of an XML file to another part, right? This is just the visual representation of that project file then. So what that means is that, I guess, because it has to do that in a file or in the memory structure, it just takes a very long time to do that. So I think there's ways that you could get around that.
Are newer plugins less optimized?
I hate when newer plugins are not as optimized as older ones. I mean, they do more. They have a bigger engine. It's not that they're less optimized. It's just that the requirements that you had to have 10 years ago when Silent came out is that there was a lot less CPU power in general just to go around between producers. So it would make sense that the plugin could do less. If you look at like Silent versus even Serum, yes, Serum uses a little bit more CPU, but it's just more capable.
What is Bitwig?
Just heard of Bitwig for the first time today. What's the big deal about it? It's Ableton, but reimagined to be better. It's like if you were to make Ableton nowadays, all of the new features implemented, just completely rethought from the perspective of a DAW as well. Because Ableton originally is a live performance thing. Ableton originally was this, which I never used, the session view. And then came the arrangement, and then it became a DAW. Bitwig was born as a DAW. In fact, it was created by ex-Ableton employees. What is the most different about Bitwig? It's more optimized. So Ableton was, I guess, designed 20 years ago, I think, ish, maybe. When was Ableton 1 created? Ableton's first release date. 30th of October 2001. So it's more than 20 years old. Live 1.0. What they did is they just reimagined Live, but with all of the common, or with all of the knowledge of nowadays. Bitwig, I think, is like 5 years old, maybe. So it's just better designed, because we know a lot more about software design since 2001. There's something like the audio engine and the program are separate in Bitwig, so if a VST crashes, you don't lose your work in the same way that, and you can just restart one of the engines. Exactly. So that's one of the things, right? Nowadays, we know that sandboxing different parts of a process can lead to more stability, because if one part of the process crashes, it doesn't crash all of the others. In the same way that it used to be the case that if you have Chrome, right? All of these steps we're essentially one process. So if this tab were to crash because somebody put some malicious code in here, or like a fork bomb or something like that, it would crash your whole browser. Nowadays, you just close this tab and these ones keep going. We learned that from just the last 20 years of software design. And the same way is true in like the DAW space. We just learn what works and what doesn't. So VST is apparently is a hassle to work with because it was created back when plugins didn't exist, right? It's the first plugin format, I guess. And now we get VST2 and then VST3 came out, which was even better, but still was, as far as I know, it's not a nice way of coding things, the VST format. So now we're getting stuff like Clap, which is like a newer format still. It just gets iterated on and redesigned and just improved by, you know, the experience that you get from the last however many years it is between Ableton coming out and Bitwig coming out.
Is Ableton harder than FL Studio?
Saying that Ableton is way harder than FL Studio. I'm not sure what people mean by this, but when I see FL Studio, not gonna lie, I feel lost. I get the same thing, having used both. I think that they're equally complex. In Ableton, you have the whole Max for Life stuff and all of the things that you can do in there. To be honest, if you want to spend 20 years learning Ableton, you won't learn everything that there is. And I think the same is true for FL Studio. People say FL Studio is very easy to get into because it's all separated into unique things. Like you put your effects in a mixer, so you know that you're always going to be in a mixer if you want to affect something. You put your patterns in the what's it called, the pattern sequencer, the pattern trigger, the thing that you know, put the little boxes in. Step sequencer. In the step sequencer.
What is my experience with house and techno?
What is your experience with house and techno? Do you like it and did you ever produce it? No, I do like it. I never really seriously produced it. I used to be, back when Big Room House was a thing, I used to do that. But I was terrible at production because I just started out. And then I got into making dubstep. I did drum and bass for a little bit. I did mid-tempo for a long while, which is essentially drum and bass, but very, very slow at like 100 BPM. And then I got into Psytrance, and now I'm here.
I'm not good at keeping memorabilia.
Have you ever tried drawing or 3D modeling? I used to draw a lot. I used to be like, or not really drawing, but doodling, I guess. Just like small little picture thingies I would make all the time.
Oh, nice. Can we see your doodles somewhere?
I mean, I no longer have a lot of them. I no longer do it, but back when I was like, I guess up until I left for Italy, I guess. That's kind of when I stopped. So nothing left of them. No, I'm very bad at keeping records of anything. I have lost a lot of footage over the years, even of this YouTube channel, but all of the other YouTube channels that I used to have, just because I didn't save anything. I've lost pictures of myself because I just delete stuff off my phone. I have lost old music that I made. Anything that I made, I think, more than 4 years ago is lost now. So I am very bad at keeping records of things. Even the doodles like that, yeah, no, I never kept them. Do you regret stuff you lost? Not really. Like, the only reason I regret losing the music that I made before, like 4 years ago, is because it would be cool to have a I have been producing for 10 years now kind of video, right? And this is all my music. But that's the only reason. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I know deep down that it was terrible music, what I made back then. So I don't have sentimental things like that. As a child, I used to collect rocks and crystals and all kinds of stones and stuff like that. And I had a fairly big collection, and I even went one day to a guy that my father knew who also did like rock collection, and he would go out on vacation to like actually search for stuff at volcanoes and stuff. When I got to Italy, we moved. I put it all in a box, and I got to Italy, and I never took it out of the box. I just don't care about sentimental things that much. So no, do I regret it? No. Only for the fact that I'm now lacking an amazing piece of content that I could make.
My thoughts on Looperator.
Do you use plugins like Looperator? I think it can do awesome stuff to the bassline. Looperator, isn't that the same kind of thing as the glitch plugin? that you asked about before. Like a plugin that is just meant to mess up the sound. It's a multi-effect sequencer. How exactly would you do that on the bassline then? Like, what does it do for you on the bassline? Sorry, I'll put it here. Look how bright I get if I do this, by the way. You can see it in the camera as well. Here. So this is, as far as I understand, this is the playback buffer, right? So this is, it plays the buffer twice. It plays the buffer back and forth here. It plays the buffer back and forth here, but slower. It plays it 8 times, right? And this is then like a volume envelope you can put on it, an effect, a filter envelope you can put on it, and another effect kind of thing. Isn't this what this is, right? It's just like a buffer reader, because it also says the slice. So I assume that this is the buffer, and you just pick out whichever part of the buffer that you want to affect. I do like loops and volume up and downs in there. Honestly, when it comes to that stuff, I would just do that in the timeline. I don't have it in here, but I just have a rack for filtering, which just has 4 macros: high pass filter, low pass filter, and their respective like cues for the different filters. I just automate this if I want filter transitions and stuff like that. It's more like a gator, I would say, with some envelopes in it. Okay, so it doesn't do buffer reassignment then. It just does like playback in the same way. It doesn't take like a sound that is supposed to be here and places it here. Because see, what I mean is that it takes slice number 1 and places it at the point of slice number 2. That's what this looks to me. So that's buffer reassignment. That's what that's called. You take this part of the sound and you just play it here at the point number 2. The 7th part of the sound, you play it here and here. Otherwise, if you don't put anything, it just, I assume, takes the input from the buffer directly. I wouldn't do that on the bassline. I wouldn't use the slice then on the bassline. Yeah, it's like a glitch machine. It's essentially a different interface for the glitch plugin. It's the same kind of effects, but differently set up. In here, it is more on the sequencing of the individual effects, whereas there you can, I guess, layer multiple effects on top of each other as well. And it has the envelope and the buffer shifter in there, which this doesn't have. But it's kind of like the same plugin. Here it's more advanced glitch, but without actually destroying the sound. I don't know what you mean with destroying the sound. That's the point of a glitchy plugin. It is to controllably destroy the sound. Maybe you say that you have like more control over it, which can be the case fully. But overall, like that's the point of the plugin, is to be glitchy. And I can assure you that the way that I see the interface of Looperator, I bet you it can get pretty crazy too, just like glitch. And if you want, glitch can also just be a resonator. And without actually destroying the sound, you can just, I guess, yeah, take the modulator here and just put that on there. And now it's just a resonator. Or you can maybe even just turn it into an actual delay. Yeah, so now it's a delay.
Ear protection and resting while producing.
Do you use a protection to your ears when you produce, and how much time do you consider to stop to take a rest? Well, when it comes to the rest, it's not like I do it like very controlled. I just at some point notice like, oh, I'm getting a little bit tired. I'm getting a little bit, you know, pressured on my ears. For one, I don't play at a fairly high volume. Like my system naturally has a lower volume because I just turn it down in here already. But even the output volume of like my headphones isn't that loud. So I like to produce fairly quiet. Also because I've always been around like neighbors and stuff like that. So I've always had to keep it quiet. And never in like an isolated studio where you can really turn it up. But other than that, there's not really anything in particular that I do to say like, oh, now I need to take a break for 15 minutes because I have been producing for an hour or something like that. I just notice myself getting tired and needing to rest, and then I take a rest. In fact, I do want to take a rest right now, and I'm just going to put on a track. What I'll usually do is I'll have the stream open on my phone so that I can check when the track is roughly finished. And then once the track has finished playing, I'll get back here and entertain you guys again and produce again and continue working on this thing.
Do you test your music on different systems?
Do you test final sounds on different systems? And if yes, do you change some EQ afterwards to change the way it sounds? Yes, I do test on multiple systems, and I do then EQ differently or make changes depending on what I hear. Because if you don't, what is the reason to test on multiple systems, right? You test on multiple systems to change the decisions that you're making in the mixing, and therefore I'll usually listen to my mix both on speakers as well as the headphones that I'm currently wearing, and then I'll test it also on like my phone. I'll put it on my phone and then put on Bluetooth speakers. That's just to kind of get security that it still sounds good there. But the main test that I do for the mixing and to make changes to the sounds of the mix, I use the speakers and the headphones.
Why does Psytrance fit me so much?
Do you think Psytrance fits perfectly? You're not very sentimental personality, to you it's unrelated. I think the thing that fits me for Psytrance is the fact that because there's no music theory in it, it relies so heavily on sound design, which is so very technical that I really like it. So I think that's the reason why I like the Psytrance genre more than anything else. I mean, also, when I used to do dubstep, it's the same thing, right? It's just you play the bass in the root note and you just modulate a whole bunch of stuff. That to me had the same kind of feeling in that I could just get very technical with sounds. And I found that I really like that. And I think that that's just what keeps me interested in the genre. The technicalities of the sound design, I guess.
What I drink during the day.
By the way, fun thing about CERN, if you go there and you just ask nicely at CERN, you ask for some of their like waste products, they will just give it to you. It's nice, you can just drink it. No, it's just, it's like a syrup thing. So in the Netherlands, syrup, like lemonade syrup, is very popular. And I still want that because it's easy to make and it allows me to just make a bottle of a drink and quickly drink something. So I don't have to buy too much bottles from the store and you know, when you get that home, I don't want to buy too many things, I guess. So having one bottle of syrup that makes me 10 bottles of, you know, this stuff to drink is a little bit easier. So that's why I drink it. And the reason why this one is green is it's like a Mentos thing, like mint thing, I guess. And I guess that's green. But the other ones that I have are like normal. I have a different one that is, you know, Fruity di Bosco, the forest fruits, a whole collection of fruits from the forest. But I just make a bunch of different ones, and this one was just to test out. To be honest, it's not my favorite, but it's tolerable. I thought it would be a lot worse, but it's okay. The problem is, since I moved to this apartment, I now have a different store, and it used to be the case that the other store that I went to had a lot of different varieties of syrup, and a lot of the varieties were very, very good. One of them was they just had brown sugar. It was really strange. If I drank it, it looked like I was drinking cum, like sperm cum, that kind of cum. So I didn't drink it on stream for obvious reasons, but it was really, really good. And in the new store, they only had the only syrup that I liked from the old store that was still there was the Fruity di Bosco, the forest fruit thing. I don't know if that's the real way that they say it in English. That's how we say it in Italian and Dutch as well, I guess. Bosvruchten. But anyway, so over the last few months, I have slowly tried out all of their different syrups, and none of them were good. The only one that is somewhat decent is this one and their strawberry one. But the problem with strawberry syrup is that it doesn't actually taste like strawberry. It just tastes like if you were to describe the taste of strawberry to somebody else who has never tasted it and they had to remake it from scratch. That's kind of what it tastes like. You sent me some. That would be very nice if you would do that. We can talk about that later in DMs too, so I can give you my address. If you want to do that, I would highly appreciate that. Because having some good syrup is very, very nice. Another thing that I'll do is make a video tutorial on how I make my own iced tea. I no longer have it. Here's the finished bottle that I had before of iced tea. But I make my own iced tea by just like literally making tea and then making it cold, but never heating up the water. I'll make maybe even a video about it, because there's some cool things that you can do with that. Even like adding spices to it and stuff like that. You can get really crazy if you want to. But one of the reasons why I mentioned this now is I do want to get at some point more real life stuff in there. Like I did the studio tour and the DJing video, and both of those were very well received. And people said like, oh, you need to do more of this stuff. You need to do more, you know, just personal stuff. So I want to do that. And one of the things that I could do is show you how I make my iced tea. I think you guys know what I mean when I say the iced tea. It is actually a really easy process in that you just have a bottle like this, fill it up with water to like here, and then add a little bit of honey that fills it off, and just add your tea bag in there and just leave it for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I take the tea bag out, take the exact same tea bag, I take two of the same tea bags, right? Two of the same flavors, I guess. I first hang one in, and then after 10 minutes, I hang the other one in, and then it's done. And you can just leave it. It's no work. It's very nice. Wheat tea? No, just normal tea bags. Just like your run-of-the-mill standard stuff. I say standard stuff, but I import it from the Netherlands, the tea that I use for it. Mainly. I can use like the Italian tea as well, but the Dutch tea, they have more flavors. It sounds stupid, but there's a few flavors that I still missed from 10 years ago. So that I have my sister send them to me. Or when I go to the Netherlands, I went to the Netherlands a month ago now, almost precisely. So the tea that I use, I get that from the Netherlands, and I just bring it with me whenever I go. So you're in Italia, but you're from the Netherlands. Well, we call it the Netherlands, but yes. I'm not that much of a tea person, like I don't know the different teas, but the one that I have is, or the one that I like the most is Moroccan mint tea. I can get a thing. 2 seconds, I'll be back. I'll get a package so you know what it actually is. This stuff. This is the best tea in the Netherlands. It doesn't focus. I need to focus it manually, I guess. It gets worse. Here we are. Bitwig Minty Morocco. Very, very good tea. And then I also have the chai spices, the chai masala spices. So these you can mix with the tea. It's a mess because then you have to filter it. But it is very, very nice. And this is just the Morocco tea. I've been drinking this all my life. It's the best tea out there. End of discussion. It is great. It is amazing. The ones made by Lipton are better, but there's less in the package, so it's not as good to take with you if you're importing stuff to Italy. Because Lipton does like triangle bags for more space for the spices and stuff. I was gonna tell you what's in it. It's mint and cinnamon, I think. At least that's what it says on the packaging. But I assume that there's more in there. Yeah, spearmint, cinnamon, zoethout. What is zoethout? The tag language to English. Zoethout. Licorice. Aha. So it has some licorice in there as well. And then like a spice mix on top of that.
Would I take commissions for genres I currently don't make?
If someone would commission you to make an ambient, trancey D&B game soundtrack, would you take it? It depends on the terms of the commission, I guess. If they ask me to do it for $2, I won't do it. But if you pay me enough money, I'll do anything. I'll try to record a rock album if you really give me enough money. I'll just hire some guitarist and have him figure it out or whatever the budget allows. If I can get paid to do music, whatever music that is, it's fine by me. It doesn't really matter what exactly the type of music is. The people that follow me and that know what I do will know that I specialize in Psytrance. So I assume that all of the commission work that I'm going to get is going to be in that region, like for mixing services and mastering services and stuff like that. Which, by the way, I already do on my website, projektorsound.com. I guess I should show you for those interested, since you guys brought up the topic. It's not me self-promoting, you guys asked for this. There's a mixing service document right here, which has all of the details about my mixing and mastering services. And for some reason the URL is like this, but doesn't really matter. The original website is projektorsound.com. You'll find cool pictures of me. And there's a lot of information about it.
How my master recording track is set up.
How is that master track set up? Is it just another audio track? Yes, it's just an audio track that records from my master output. So all of these groups, I messed something up there, as you can see. All of these groups go into the master out track here, right? And this is set to input so that it receives all of that audio. And then this sends it to the output group, and then this sends it to the master. This means I can have stuff on here which exists and does my mastering. Apparently I already have a master chain on this. Interesting. I didn't know that. And then I have my reference track, which doesn't go through the master. And I have all of that stuff up here neatly hidden away. I just take input from that master out, from this track that I'm mastering on, and I just place it in here.
My thoughts on DAW updates.
Oh, it's Bitwig for collab and the resampling is so good. I know. I want it. I want bounce in place. I want all of the stuff that Bitwig has, but I don't want Bitwig. I want that stuff inside of Ableton. And the reason is I have like, at any time I have 7, 8 active productions going on. There's a Max for Life plugin that replicates bounce in place. I know, but anything other than right click, bounce in place, and it creating a new track with the audio on it below is going to be slower than the way that Bitwig has it. So I want that. It's in every DAW except in Ableton. Even FL Studio has it now. Or at least it has like a very similar function. I think they call it like resample. Because back in the day when I used FL Studio, audio recording was the worst. Like, it's not even comparable to what Ableton has now, where you have to manually record it into a new track and you have to make a new track. In FL Studio, you had to go into the mixer of all things, load up an effect called Edison, and you had to record from there and then drag it into the playlist. There was one more step still. And there's still no nice resampling for Ableton 12. Everything that they announced for Ableton 12 doesn't interest me. Like, it's cool to have the mixer here, but I don't really care about it because I never mix in Ableton. I mix in Reaper. So, and that's the only thing I was really like, oh, that looks super cool. The node modifiers, like, it's all stuff that I already have my own workarounds for and that kind of thing. To be honest, I don't know a lot more. They had the whole sample selection, the whole browser updates. I don't care. I generally know what kind of sound that I want to go for. And I don't have a hard time finding what I need with just the search function. I switched to Ableton from FL because of the shitty Edison resampling. It's terrible. I hate it so much. It's the worst idea there is. To just have, like, the record. I get where it comes from because it makes sense if you're used to a studio environment. Because you literally just had to tap something into the mixer to record from that point, right? That's what they're doing. The flexibility is nice in that you can basically record anywhere in, like, your effects chain. Say I wanted to record right here, you just put Edison in here. So it kind of makes sense. But for 99.9% of the cases, it doesn't, because you just want to record the end of the track, or you just want to have that clip in audio form to quickly look at something. And for all of those cases, it was just too slow. But I think now they have done it much better. To be honest, FL Studio is getting better updates and getting more stuff and getting more interesting faster than Ableton is. But since they made it better than in Ableton. Yeah, I think it's just, from what I know, it's just like in Bitwig where you just go on the clip, right click, convert to audio, and it will just literally pop it right there in the template. It's kind of funny that ImageLine is the only company that offers lifetime updates for free on a DAW. And seeing what kind of updates they bring to the table for a version update, even for a minor version update, where you go from 21.1 to, or from 21.0 to 21.1, they add like 1 synth, 3 effects, and 90 like workflow related updates that are actually good, that are actually useful, and that you would use in everyday life, right? In everyday production. In Ableton, you go a massive version higher and they give you one synth, two effects, like the same thing that you get in a minor update in FL Studio. And you have to pay $150 for it. And most of the updates you'll never use. Like, it's cool that it's there. It's what I said about the browser sampling, searching and tagging and stuff like that. But there's no way I'm going to go in here and tag all of my sounds, all of the thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of audio files that I have on my PC. I'm never going to do that. So I'll never use it. It's a cool feature, but it's I guess kind of just too late. I've built up my sample library already. I know already exactly where everything is. And there's not really a point in now starting to tag my stuff. It's the same with the collections. These collections are, I sometimes use them, but I've criminally underused them. Because it came out when I already knew where to find everything in the plugin thing and in the audio effects thing. So I was already used to browsing in here. And now the only thing that actually changed is the menu. But this is because it's just so massively quick. Right? That there's no comparison to doing this and finding something versus having to look away, look here, be precise because this isn't very big, and then go look for, I don't know, EQ8 and drag it on. As opposed to just going here and then click EQ8.
One more reason to like MeldaProductions.
Melda's great. They did, this is a fun thing as well. I used to be on subscription for Melda, for their massive bundle, which was like $500 a year. So, and then it's rent to own. And the whole thing is like $2,040, $2,050-ish, the whole bundle. But they had a discount going at the end of the year for $1,000 off. For like if you buy the whole bundle, their full massive bundle. Which still $1,000 to spend on plugins. Not everybody's going to have that, but okay. But what they did is, if you were on a rent-to-own subscription plan, you could also discount the part that you already had paid for the rent-to-own part. So I already had paid 2 times $500 for my subscriptions. And then there was $1,000 off. So I just paid $50 for the whole bundle. And now I don't have to pay the other, like, $1,050 anymore. And it still works. They had a sale going on a product, and to not mess up their subscription owners, they applied the sale to the subscription as well. So you could convert your subscription into an actual purchase, and then whatever you already had paid in the subscription also became a discount. That's really interesting. I've never seen that happen before. Like in any plugin company or any other subscription company, where they just, you subscribed for 2 years, that means that you paid this much, we'll give you that as a discount on your purchase, together with the other discount that we're running, which means that you basically pay nothing. It's really cool. I love them.
So that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this new format. Let me know if you did like it by leaving a like and commenting something on the video. I do want to say a final few things before the video ends though. For one, this video is massively inspired by Dark Vibe by AU, a content creator I've been watching for a long time and have also worked with. Well, technically I worked for him, but I'd like to say work with because it sounds better. As you can probably tell if you watch this, the Rambling series that he does is a massive inspiration for this series as well, and I hope that I can kind of continue it in the same way that he is doing, where just every once in a while I'll post a few interesting moments from my stream. I want to do them a little bit longer so that you have like an hour of content, so that it's almost like a podcast that you can put on. The other thing that I want to say is that all of the clips that you've seen in the video here today have been taken from my stream for the 6th episode of High Tech from scratch. I'm no longer going to be making that series, and the reason for that is just performing poorer than anything I've ever posted on my channel. Like in comparison here, I just quickly have the analytics for you. You can see that it's less views than I get by like half. So normally I get between 800 and 1.2k on my videos, and this has just barely surpassed 300 views. So it's not really worth it for me to put time into a series like the High Tech from scratch, in this case the stream recap, and the same was kind of true for the later episodes as well. So here you can see episode 4 of the High Tech from scratch series. This is the last one that I pre-recorded instead of live streamed. And you can see that I'm having the same problem in that people just no longer care as much about the track as they did when the series first started. I thought people were going to care much more about videos like these, and to be honest, it's just a series that isn't worth really making for me anymore. I still do want to finish the track, so I'm going to be continuing streaming it and just finishing it on stream, which means actually if you want to see the track being made, you'll actually get to see everything that is being made as opposed to the cut-up versions that I used to do before. But that does mean that the videos from the series are no longer going to be made. So that's everything that I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.